She was planning this for months. Then I discovered the truth about what she really thought. At 34, I believed I had discovered the woman of my dreams. Victoria and I had been inseparable for 3.5 years, engaged for 8 months, with our wedding ceremony scheduled in just 16 weeks. I'm a senior software architect at a prestigious technology firm in downtown Seattle, while Victoria manages luxury brand marketing for an exclusive boutique agency. We had been meticulously orchestrating our future together, including the purchase of a stunning craftsman home in an elite neighborhood that we were supposed to close on in just 10 days. Last Saturday evening, Victoria invited me to dinner at her parents' estate in their affluent Bellevue enclave. Her mother, Catherine, had prepared an extraordinary feast: herb-crusted lamb, truffle risotto, artisanal sourdough, the full, luxurious spread. Her father, Harrison, was unusually warm. Typically, Harrison treats me with polite but distant civility, as though I haven't quite proven myself worthy of his daughter's affections. That evening felt dramatically different. He asked detailed questions about my architectural projects, praised my selection of vintage wine, even chuckled genuinely at my attempts at humor. I remember thinking how wonderful it felt that they were finally embracing me as a future son-in-law, not just someone their daughter was dating. Halfway through our elegant meal, Victoria set her sterling silver fork down with deliberate precision and adopted an intensely serious, almost rehearsed expression. "Christopher," she began, her voice carrying an unfamiliar formality, "I've been thinking a lot about our future and long-term financial security." She then reached beneath her chair and produced a thick manila envelope, sliding it across the polished mahogany table as though we were conducting a corporate merger instead of sharing a family dinner. "I believe we should execute a prenuptial agreement before our wedding." I found myself staring at the envelope with my name professionally typed on an attached label while her parents nodded approvingly, as though the entire evening had been carefully choreographed. My stomach plummeted, not merely because of the surprise, but because I realized this elegant dinner had been an elaborate trap. I opened the envelope as Victoria and her parents watched my every reaction. The prenuptial agreement wasn't simply about protecting assets we each brought into the marriage. It demanded complete and total financial separation moving forward. Separate bank accounts, separate credit accounts, separate investment portfolios, separate everything. Even our emergency fund would be divided and maintained in complete isolation. But the clause that truly shattered me was the real estate provision. The craftsman home we were purchasing together would be titled exclusively in Victoria's name. According to the document, if we divorced, I would walk away with nothing, regardless of how much I contributed to mortgage payments, home improvements, or ongoing maintenance. Essentially, I would be paying rent to live in a house that would belong entirely to my wife. I asked why she suddenly wanted this when we had never discussed anything remotely similar before. Her mother immediately interjected, not allowing Victoria even a moment to formulate her own response. "It's simply intelligent financial planning, Christopher. Surely someone with your professional background understands the critical importance of protecting one's accumulated assets." The way Catherine pronounced "someone with your professional background" felt deeply condescending, as though she were explaining elementary mathematics to a confused child. Her father added with a smug tone, "It's nothing personal, just business. You understand business principles, don't you?" He gestured expansively around their expensive dining room. "This is precisely how people of our caliber protect what we've built over generations." But here's what was driving me to the edge of madness. When we first started planning our home purchase, Victoria had been the one passionately advocating for both our names on everything. She said it would demonstrate that we were truly committed and building something meaningful together as partners. Now suddenly, she wanted legal separation of everything we would build as a married couple. I closed the envelope and looked up at the three expectant faces. "I need time to review this thoroughly with my attorney." The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria's fork clattered against her bone china plate. "An attorney?" Her voice pitched higher, her eyes widening as though I had just struck her. "Christopher, I thought you would be more mature and understanding about this. This is about understanding the realities of modern marriage." Catherine set down her crystal wineglass and leaned forward with predatory intensity. "Christopher, realistic expectations are what make marriages endure. I have friends, successful, intelligent women, whose marriages collapsed because of financial neglect. Her voice carried that particular tone wealthy people use when explaining obvious concepts to lesser mortals. Take my dear friend Patricia. She trusted completely, kept everything joint, and when her husband's business empire failed, she lost half of everything she had worked her entire life to build. Harrison leaned back in his leather chair with a smug, satisfied expression and declared, "Christopher, you seem like an intelligent man. Intelligent men understand that emotions and business should never mix." I left that evening feeling blindsided and expertly manipulated. The drive home was a blur. I kept replaying the evening, searching for warning signs I should have recognized. We had discussed money before, and while Victoria appreciates fine things and exclusive restaurants, I never suspected she was being calculating about our relationship. But sitting at that mahogany table with her parents backing her like a board of directors, it felt like I was being presented with a hostile corporate takeover disguised as a marriage proposal. The more I contemplated the evening, the more disturbing questions emerged. Why wait until just 10 days before our house closing? Was it about waiting until I was financially committed with major purchases? Why the complete reversal from wanting everything joint to everything separate? And why did her parents seem so thoroughly prepared with responses to objections I hadn't even raised yet? I haven't slept peacefully since that Saturday evening. Every time I close my eyes, I see that manila envelope with my name typed on it and remember the feeling of being ambushed by people I thought genuinely cared about me. Am I overreacting? Is this normal? Because right now, it feels like my fiancée and her family orchestrated an elaborate scheme to manipulate me into signing away my rights to everything we'll build together while still expecting me to contribute equally to building it. Someone asked about our financial situation in the comments, so let me clarify. I earn approximately $185,000 as a senior software architect. Victoria earns around $98,000 in luxury marketing. We've been splitting most expenses proportionally based on our income, though I've been covering more of our joint costs because of my higher earnings. The house down payment is coming from both our savings accounts. I'm contributing $52,000. She's contributing $23,000. Under her prenuptial agreement, I would be paying into an asset that would belong entirely to her. Well, that escalated into complete chaos, and I'm apparently now the villain of this story according to Victoria and her entire extended family. First, I contacted my attorney Monday morning. Marcus has handled contract reviews for me previously, and I trust his professional judgment completely. His reaction when I described the prenuptial agreement was immediate and unequivocal. "Christopher, this is one of the most one-sided documents I've ever encountered in my practice. Not sign this under any circumstances." He spent 45 minutes meticulously going through each clause, explaining how I would be legally vulnerable in ways I hadn't even considered. The house clause was particularly egregious. Not only would I have no ownership stake whatsoever, but I would be responsible for half the mortgage payments, property taxes, and maintenance costs on an asset that would belong entirely to her if we divorced. Essentially, I would be paying Victoria to live in a house she owned while bearing equal financial responsibility. But here's what truly opened my eyes. Marcus pointed out that Victoria could have achieved reasonable asset protection without completely destroying me financially. A fair prenuptial agreement might protect premarital assets while still allowing for joint ownership of things we build together as a married couple. This wasn't about security. It was about creating maximum advantage for her while leaving me exposed to maximum risk. "Christopher," he said with grave concern, "this reads like someone who's already planning for divorce while expecting you to subsidize her lifestyle until that happens." That consultation cost me $650, but it was worth every penny for the clarity it provided. So I made two decisions that have apparently branded me as a manipulative monster. One, I'm not signing the prenuptial agreement as written under any circumstances. Two, I'm withdrawing from the house purchase immediately. I contacted our realtor Monday afternoon and removed my name from all the paperwork. Since I was contributing $52,000 of the $75,000 down payment and Victoria can't qualify for the mortgage on her income alone, this effectively killed the deal. Our realtor was sympathetic but professional. She mentioned she'd witnessed this happen before with couples who discovered financial incompatibility late in the process. I also transferred $78,000 from our joint savings account into my personal checking account. For the record, this was my money that I had saved over the past 5 years working 70-hour weeks and living frugally. I moved it to our joint account 8 months ago when we started seriously planning the house purchase. With everything that was happening, I needed to protect my assets the same way Victoria was protecting hers. Victoria discovered the transfer when she checked the balance Tuesday morning. She called me at my office, and I could hear her screaming from across my entire cubicle area. She accused me of sabotaging our relationship and stealing from us. When I explained that I wasn't comfortable with the prenuptial terms and that the house purchase didn't make financial sense under those conditions, she hung up on me. That evening, Catherine called my personal cell phone. She was furious, but tried to maintain that artificially sweet voice she uses when she wants something. She told me I was being petty and vindictive, and that I was punishing Victoria for being responsible and mature. She said Victoria had already told her friends and colleagues about the house, even posting about it on social media, and now she would be embarrassed to explain why it fell through. "Christopher, sweetheart," she said in an insufferably condescending tone, "Victoria is just trying to protect herself. Surely you want your future wife to feel secure." When I pointed out that her idea of Victoria's security involved my complete financial insecurity, Catherine's voice turned ice cold. "Well, perhaps you're not as committed to this relationship as we thought." Harrison called an hour later. He tried a different approach, the reasonable businessman act. He said he understood my concerns and maybe we could renegotiate some of the prenuptial terms to make me more comfortable. But then he added that I should still proceed with the house purchase to show good faith and prove I was serious about working together. I told him that if Victoria wanted financial separation, she would get complete financial separation. I wasn't going to pay into assets I would have no claim to or support someone who was legally protecting herself from having to support me. "You're being emotional, Christopher," he said dismissively. "This is just business. Don't let pride destroy something good." Here's what really infuriates me. None of them seem to understand that they created this entire situation. Victoria ambushed me with a one-sided legal document designed to benefit her at my expense, and now they're angry that I'm protecting myself using the exact same logic they applied to protecting her. Victoria hasn't spoken to me since Tuesday. Her friends have been texting me, calling me selfish, and saying I'm ruining everything over money. Her sister Melissa left me a voicemail saying I'm destroying Victoria's life and that I should think about what really matters. But here's the thing, I feel clearer than I have in months. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Victoria showed me she sees our marriage as a business arrangement where she gets the benefits and security while I take the financial risks and obligations. Someone asked about the joint account. Yes, I took only my contributions plus my proportional share of interest earned. I have records of every deposit going back 5 years. Victoria contributed about $18,000 to that account over 8 months. Her money is still there. She can't claim I took anything that belonged to her because I have documentation of everything. This situation has gone completely nuclear, and I'm discovering things about Victoria and her family that are making me question our entire 3.5-year relationship. The house deal officially collapsed Wednesday when Victoria couldn't secure financing. She lost the $8,000 earnest money deposit because she couldn't meet the financial commitment without my income and down payment contribution. According to our realtor, Victoria spent over an hour on the phone screaming at her, demanding she fix it and threatening to sue for enabling Christopher's sabotage. But instead of stepping back and considering why I made these decisions, Victoria's family doubled down with increasingly desperate attempts to pressure me into reversing course. Thursday morning, Catherine showed up at my workplace. She somehow got past building security and cornered me in the parking garage as I was leaving for lunch. She was crying and telling me how I was destroying her daughter's dreams and how Victoria had been looking forward to that house for months. "Christopher, please," she said, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. "Victoria has already planned where the furniture would go. You're breaking her heart over paperwork." I told her that Victoria broke my trust when she tried to legally exclude me from ownership while still expecting me to pay for everything. That's when Catherine offered what she called a compromise. I could return to the original house deal, contribute my $52,000, and Victoria would consider modifying the prenuptial agreement after we were married. When I said that wasn't remotely acceptable, Catherine's demeanor changed. The tears stopped instantly, her voice turned sharp and threatening, and she told me I was being unreasonable and selfish. She said that men who really love their partners don't need legal guarantees because real love means unconditional trust. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost insulting. Victoria could have any man she wants, Catherine said, getting nasty. She chose you. Don't throw that away because you can't handle a successful woman protecting herself. I told her to leave me alone and walked back into my building. Security escorted her out. Friday evening, Harrison called and tried yet another approach. This time he played the generous father-in-law. He offered to personally guarantee that I would be taken care of if Victoria and I ever divorced. When I asked what that meant legally, he got vague and said they were good people who would do right by me and that I should trust the family. I told him I don't make major financial decisions based on verbal promises from people who are clearly biased toward their daughter's interests. You're being paranoid, Christopher, he said with obvious frustration. We're trying to bring you into the family, but you're acting like we're your enemies. Then Harrison offered something that made my jaw drop. He would personally loan Victoria the money for the down payment so she could buy the house herself. But here's the kicker, he wanted me to co-sign the mortgage because she still can't qualify for the loan amount on her income alone. Let me repeat that. He wanted me to co-sign debt for a house I wouldn't own, secured by money I wouldn't control, to benefit a woman who doesn't want to share assets with me, but still wants me legally responsible for her obligations. I laughed. I actually laughed at him over the phone. Harrison, you want me to take financial responsibility without any financial benefit. That's exactly the same principle as the prenuptial agreement. The answer is absolutely not. You're making a mistake, Christopher, he said before hanging up. Victoria won't wait forever, but the real revelation came Saturday morning. Victoria's cousin Jennifer called me around 10 o'clock. Jennifer and I have always gotten along well. She's about my age, works in finance, and we've had great conversations at family gatherings. She said she was concerned about what she was hearing from the family and wanted my perspective on the situation. During our conversation, Jennifer let slip something that made my blood run cold. She mentioned how Harrison and Catherine had been telling everyone that Victoria was smart to protect herself because you never know if Christopher's tech job will last, and apparently Victoria agreed completely with her parents. When I asked what she meant, Jennifer realized she had said too much. Her voice changed and she started backtracking. But after some pressing, she admitted they had been discussing for months how unstable tech careers are and how Victoria needed to plan for the worst-case scenario. She thinks the tech bubble is going to burst again, Jennifer said reluctantly. She thinks your job could disappear overnight, and she doesn't want to be stuck supporting you when it happens. I felt physically sick. Victoria had been planning this prenuptial agreement for months while I was planning our wedding, researching venues, and thinking about our shared future. She was consulting attorneys about how to legally separate herself from the consequences of my potential failure. Jennifer, I asked, my voice barely steady, has Victoria ever said anything positive about my career or our financial future together? There was a long, telling pause. Christopher, I think Victoria loves you, but she's practical. I thanked Jennifer for her honesty and hung up. Then I sat in my apartment for 3 hours, thinking about every conversation Victoria and I had ever had about money, careers, and the future. Suddenly, her comments about wanting to be secure and independent took on a completely different meaning. She wasn't talking about being secure together, she was talking about being secure from me. Someone asked about my job security. I work for a stable company that's been profitable for over 15 years. I have excellent performance reviews, relevant skills, and 8 months as emergency savings. The tech industry certainly has its ups and downs, but so does every other industry, and I'm not some startup kid whose job could vanish tomorrow. Victoria's fears seem based on media stereotypes rather than my actual situation. It's over. The engagement is officially off, and despite the pain, I'm honestly relieved. After that last revelation, several people urged me to have one final honest conversation with Victoria before making any permanent decisions. I agreed that I owed it to our 3.5-year relationship to try one more time, even though I was pretty sure where it would lead. I texted Victoria Sunday afternoon, asking if we could meet privately to talk through everything without her family involved. She agreed, and we met Monday evening at the coffee shop where we had our first date. Victoria looked exhausted. She was dressed perfectly as always, but I could see the stress etched in her features. We ordered our usual drinks and sat in the corner booth we used to think of as our special spot. I started by telling her what Jennifer had revealed about her months of planning and her concerns about my career stability. I kept my voice calm and non-accusatory. Victoria, I need to ask you directly, have you been planning this prenuptial agreement because you expect my career to fail? Her response told me everything I needed to know. She didn't deny it. She didn't look surprised that I knew. Instead, she got defensive and said she was just being realistic about the tech industry. Christopher, you have to understand, she said, leaning forward with that earnest expression she uses when she wants me to agree with her. I've seen what happens when women don't protect themselves. My friend Sarah's husband was unemployed for 2 years. 2 years, Christopher. She had to support him, pay all the bills, cover his health insurance. She almost lost her house. I asked why she didn't talk to me about these concerns instead of secretly planning legal protection from our marriage. She looked genuinely confused by the question. I didn't want to hurt your feelings or make you insecure about your job, she said, but I needed to look out for myself. That's just being practical. So instead of having a conversation with your future husband about financial planning and career security, you decided to legally protect yourself from having to support me if I go through hard times? Christopher, be realistic, she said, growing frustrated. I've worked too hard to build my life to risk losing it because of circumstances beyond my control. Then came the moment that ended it for me. I asked the question that had been haunting me. Victoria, if you think my career is so unstable and you're afraid of having to support me, why do you want to marry me at all? Her answer hit me like a blow to the chest. Because I love you, but love doesn't pay the bills. I need to be practical about my future. That's when I knew we were finished. Not because she had financial concerns, those are legitimate. Not because she wanted some protection, that's understandable. But because in her mind, there was no our future. There was only her future to worry about. Victoria, I said, my voice steady despite my breaking heart, marriage is supposed to be about building something together, supporting each other through good times and bad. You're asking me to marry someone who's already planning for my failure and protecting herself from having to be there for me during difficult times. She started crying then, saying that wasn't what she meant, that I was twisting her words and being dramatic. She said she did want to build something together, but she also needed to be responsible. We can still work this out, she said through tears. I can modify some of the prenuptial terms. We can find a different house. You just need to understand where I'm coming from. But I was done. I told her I couldn't marry someone who saw me as a financial risk to be managed rather than a partner to trust. I've spent the last 3 days moving my belongings out of our shared apartment. Victoria has been texting me, asking to talk this through rationally, but there's nothing left to discuss. The wedding vendors are being contacted. Most have been understanding, especially when I explained that the engagement ended due to irreconcilable differences about financial partnership. Some deposits are lost, but that's a small price to pay for avoiding a marriage that was already doomed. My groomsmen have been incredibly supportive. My best man, Evan, said, "Dude, you dodged a bullet. A wife who's planning for your failure before you're even married? That's not a partner. That's a parasite." To everyone who shared their stories and advice throughout this process, thank you. You helped me see that I wasn't overreacting and that protecting myself wasn't selfish. Victoria's family has been reaching out, trying to get me to reconsider. Catherine left a voicemail saying Victoria made a mistake and has learned her lesson, and that young women sometimes get bad advice. Harrison texted offering to pay for couples counseling and said Victoria is willing to compromise. They still don't understand that this wasn't about money. It was about trust, communication, and partnership. I had to block them all eventually. My attorney, Marcus, has been helping me ensure all joint obligations are properly separated and that I'm protected during this process. Everything is documented, my money is secured, and my name is off all shared commitments. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. This will be my last update. Time to move on with my life, and honestly, I've never felt more free.